Hello guys, I'm back from another video, and today we talk about what if Deku was an Oni. So in the last video we talked about how Izuku was currently training with the rest of his classmates as Class 1B would arrive, as when they saw all of the students all of the students of Class 1A basically training, including Izuku, which Izuku is basically punching down boulders thanks to the help of his counterbow and his sword. Let's just say the whole of Class 1B thinks, damn, we are that weak. So, after that, they were told to do the test of courage, which they started going into the forest in teams of 3. In this case, Izuku was paired up with Kineko and Ibara, which, let's just say, both of them were starting to become even more, hot and bothered. Take a guess what that means. So, after a while of going into the forest, it turns out that the League of Villains have arrived to basically try and fight them. So, when the League of Villains arrived, 2 of them, specifically a random Nomu and a girl by the name of Toga, would basically start to fight them. Izuku would start losing himself. He would start to become his more berserker-like state, which I'm calling the Oni state, where he basically started transforming into the Oni that he was meant to be, where his counterbow would basically start to fuse with his own arm, as the Blood River blade would start to become longer, as his eyes would become much more purplish. When Kineko basically got hurt by Toga, or was it Ibara? Can't remember, but when they were getting hurt by her, well, let's just say Izuku is about to finish her off. Almost killing her, but thankfully not really thankfully, more like unfortunately, she escaped. So, Izuku would not stop ranting that he should kill them, and when a certain girl, aka Ibara, would basically try and stop him, Izuku would basically fall to the ground, basically just knocked out. After they arrived back at the training camp proper and basically told the, teachers about the whole, problem over there, aka the League of Villains basically fighting, it turns out that Koda basically got killed. Koda would get killed by Muscular, and let's just say both Ragdoll and Mandalay, I think that's her name, yeah. Mandalay would basically be devastated knowing that their, foster child over there is basically dead. So, Izuku is currently in the hospital basically resting after that, incident, and it turns out that he's in a coma. So, after a while basically talking, specifically the principal and the staff, specifically Principal Nezu and the staff of UA, basically started talking as one of them would suggest to basically tell the whole story about Izuku being the Oni himself. Principal Nezu would allow it, as when they do get to the hospital where Izuku is basically staying, it turns out that both Kineko, Ibara, and, Izuku / Kineko's parents are there. When they saw Principal Nezu there, they would basically explain that both, Izuku and Kineko's parents would get out after telling, Kineko and and Ibara about the situation and planning and telling them about, Izuku's, whole thing. They would not realize that Izuku is being told by this already by his other self, the Oni that was trapped in his mind. The more Oni-like version of him is basically telling him to basically let him out. Izuku would be horrified and started, saying that he's not him. He would start to laugh and basically said that he is him, and there's no changing it. And so that is why I basically ended off the episode right there. And so, let's talk about what happens next then. So, Izuku's still talking with his other self, still stuck in the cage, as he would say this: "Let me out. Let me out and just let me taste their blood. And stop lying to yourself. Stop lying that you are me." As Izuku would say this: "You are not me. I am not a monster. A freak." As he would say this: "Freak. Monster. What a joke. You are me, and you're never going to see the end of this. I am you. And you can't lie to yourself about that." As Izuku would just say, "I am not you. I am not a monster. I am not a freak like you." He would start to rant saying he's not a monster that drinks blood and eats flesh, As for, his dark self, which I'm just gonna be calling his Oni, or his more, Shinigami self, or whatever I want to call him. Actually, yeah, why not call him Shinigami? Why not? So, Shinigami would say this: I am you. Why won't you accept me? I will give you power even greater than your regular old body can take. As Izuku would say this. What? As he would say this. Yeah. Just let me out and I will give you power to surpass anybody, including All Might. Will you accept? As he would start to smile, almost like Sekunda from Jujutsu Kaisen. As Izuku would say this. You won't hurt anybody, right? As he would say this. Only those that hurt you and your friends or whatever. Including your two lovers. As he would say this. I told you they're not my lovers. I swear to God. As he would say this. Stop denying yourself. As Izuku would say this. Fine. Okay? I'll let you take control of me. But only in situations that really need it. As he would say this. Well then, do we have a deal? As he would basically just put his arms through the bars of the large cage. As he would say this. Deal. As a huge flame, almost resembling like Bill Cipher's flame from what is that called? From Gravity Falls, where he's about to make a deal. So, Izuku would make a deal with, with his more Oni self, aka Shinigami, as Shinigami would say this. You may call me Shinigami, but my original name is... well, it's a bit much. They usually call me... As he would give off this more, even, not really, not even scarier smile. It's more like a really sad smile. What do I mean by this? Well, he looks like he's smiling, but in the inside he looks like he's suffering. As he would say this. My real name is... He would start to sigh, as he would say his name. My real name is Senji Muramasa. I am the original creator of this blade. The blade which is now called the Blood River Blade. As he would say this. So you're the one that created it? As he would say this. Yes. But that sword was made from the blood of orphans and innocent people. I created it for my country. But they betrayed me, thinking that I was the monster, when clearly they are. I only wanted to serve under them, but they decided to shun me and my family. They killed my family right in front of me, and then executed me in front of everybody. The Blood River Blade was my last creation before I died. And because of that, I was trapped in the blade, trapped in its hilt forever. But you wielded me, you used me, and I am grateful for that. Izuku would say this. Grateful? What do you mean by that? As he would say this. It's you. You remind me of my kid. My kin. And because of that, I allowed you to use me, unlike the others. It's not a blade of evil. It's actually a blade for good. But it was corrupted. You couldn't control my dark side. And then, when you did, I came back. I just want you to at least protect your friends and allies. Will you promise me that? He would give off this stern look as Izuku would say this. Yeah, I will. As he would say this. Good. I will give back every single memory that you had before you became this. as he would be given the memories of him basically torturing, you know, all of those innocent people that came into the Buddhist sect, as Izuku would start to cry, saying, "Did I really do that?" As he would say this, "Yes, kid, but you can atone for that by becoming a hero. Now, you should go back to the human world, because I don't have enough time. I'm slowly going back to the human world. I meant slowly going back to the world of the dead. So, hope to see you again, Izuku Midoriya." As Izuku would wake up in a hospital room, seeing both Kineko and Ibara basically slumped over him, or at least on, onto the bed that he's basically resting on. As Izuku would say this, "So, I'm in a hospital. Ow, it hurts. It's still pretty much healing." Izuku would still start to heal. It's still taking pretty long to do that, as Izuku would basically look around, as a person would basically open the door, seeing that it's Principal Nezu. As Nezu would say this, "Ah, Izuku, you're finally awake." As Izuku would say this, "Principal Nezu, what are you doing here?" As he would say this, "Well, I've been looking to maybe talk to you for a while. And as for your friends over there," as he would point at, Kineko and Ibara, as Izuku would say this, "Yeah?" As he would say this, "Well, I want to talk to you about your true origin. You being the Oni from that Buddhist sect." As Izuku would say this, "I already know." As he would say this, "Wait, what?" As he would say this, I remember everything, including all of the suffering that I did. I want to atone for everything, including for what I have done." As he would say this, "Really?" As he would say this, "Yeah, I'm sorry for what I have done. I'm sorry for killing all of those innocent people, including those innocent heroes. I'm sorry." He would start to cry, as his horns start to change, turning into almost like, his two-horn state, is more like, how do I say this? His horns would start to turn into his, Oni state type form, where the horns, instead of being, four horns, they would start to fuse and turn back into, two horns. As nothing would change. His eye would start to become, a little bit purplish, mostly the, regular eye over here. Not really the regular eye, I meant, this eye specifically. This one. The bluish one, that one. As, well, he doesn't really have the cuttable, hand, and also his blade seems to be a bit different as well. Seem to be more resembling, his Oni state, form. As Izuku would say this, "I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry." As he would say this, being Principal Nezu, "Oh, it's not really much, but I'm really thankful for you to basically just, say sorry. And by the way, I want to talk to you about something important right now." As he would say this, "Then what is it?" As he would say this, "Well, me and the rest of the heroes are planning on finally defeating All For One in the League of Villains once and for all." As he would say this, "Really?" As he would say this, "Yeah, and I need your help, Izuku Midoriya." As he would say this, "Izuku Midoriya, I see." As he would say this, "Yeah, I want you to take down the League of Villains with us. So, and as for your friends over there," as he would start to look at, Ibara and Kineko, as Izuku would say this, "I don't want them to get hurt. I want you to let them stay here, or at least not in the battlefield." As he would say this, "I see. So you really do care for them." As Izuku would say this, "Yeah, I love them. They're like family, but I also love them in another way." he would start to give off this warm smile as Principal Nessie would say this. Anyway, so I want you to prepare to go to UA very soon, maybe like next week. As you would say this, so we can go to, as you would say this, yeah, the hideout of the League of Villains. I heard that it's pretty far away, so I want you to prepare. As Izuku would say this. Sure, Principal Nezu. As Principal Nezu would say this. Good. Now, see ya. As he would basically start to leave, Izuku would basically go back onto his bed, basically just like laying down. As Izuku would basically fall asleep to maybe, how do I say this? To fully rest up and get all of his, body healed. So, and unbeknownst to him, both Kineko and Ibara are basically awake and are just basically crying instead of actually sleeping. After hearing the confession that, Izuku spoke of, let's just say both of them are completely blushing messes. I mean, Ibara is starting to blush a lot, and her hair is starting to wiggle a little bit, almost similar to dogs' tails when they get a good treat or something like that. And as for Kineko, she would start to blush even more, as she would unconsciously summon out several mushrooms across the floor, specifically shiitake mushrooms. Take a guess why. So, both of them are completely blushing messes as it's the next day. Or should I say the next week or so. So, Izuku is fully walking again as he's able to wield his kanabo pretty easily. As he would start going around as he makes it back to Class 1A. As Class 1A is basically just starting class, as they would see Izuku's new, appearance. As one of them specifically, Mina would say this. Whoa, Izuku, what happened to your... Where's the rest of your horns? And the two ones that you have are pretty much bigger. As Izuku would say this. Well, I sort of changed after a while. I don't know how, but as one of them specifically, what's his name? Kaminari would say this. Whoa, what happened to your eye? It's purple now. As Izuku would say this. Well, I sort of changed, and I think my eye kind of changed as well. As he would say this. Whoa, you're absolutely cool now. And what's with the jacket now? As he would say this. Well, after all, it's kind of cold, so... As one of them specifically, Ida would basically start, scolding him for basically ruining, or should I say, breaking the dress code of the school. As he would say this. Hey, the principal allowed it, okay? And besides, I'm kind of still cold after the training camp incident. As all of them would basically remember the death of Koda. And not only that, they would start to, start getting vivid flashbacks of it, as a certain, blue-haired boy, aka Ida, would say this. I'm sorry. As he would say this. It doesn't really matter right now. Besides, as he would basically start to stumble down, as one person would basically grab him, being Ibara, as Ibara would say this. Are you okay? As Izuku would say this. Yeah, I'm still pretty much healing. And damn, my healing factor is starting to get a little bit slower than usual. As Kineko would say this. Don't worry, I got you. As she would basically start to, hold Izuku up by her, basically slinging his arm over her, back. As a certain, Ibara over there basically just well, she's kind of jealous. Actually, not kind of. We're a lot jealous. As she would start to get back her, yandere tendencies and start, looking at her funny. Not really funny looking, more angrily looking at her. As they would be put onto their seats as a certain, a certain messy-haired fellow over there, aka Zawa, would basically arrive. As Zawa would basically just explain what is gonna happen today. So after basically just the class, they would start to leave, except for some students, specifically ones that have some that have significant firepower, except for Ibara, because Ibara somehow is basically not here as well. she would be told to basically leave, and also, what's her name? Kinako. So, after all of them would basically leave to go to the principal's office, one of them would say this, being Bakugo, as Bakugo would say this. Why are we here? As one of them would say this, being, as Principal Nezu would say this. Class 1A, I want you to, please be quiet about this, because this is top secret. And besides, we're here because of something important. As he would explain that they're planning on going to the hideout of the League of Villains to basically end it once and for all. After hearing of this, one of them would say this, being, Momo. Wait, we're going to the League of Villains hideout? That's just crazy. As one of them would say this, being, Aizawa. As Aizawa would say this, don't worry. Besides, the top 10 heroes and the rest of the other low, maybe like high level heroes are basically with us. And not only that, Class 1B is also in it on as well. As Izuku would say this, wait, really? As several Class 1B members would basically arrive. Mostly ones that are basically have like pretty strong quirks. As Izuku would say this, so you're telling us that we're going to the, wait for a sec. We're planning on going to the League of Villains hideout and basically stopping them? As Aizawa would say this, correct. As Principal Nezu would basically give them some copies of some of the League of Villains members, which they found out after the, after the training camp incident, which would basically contain all of the, info about each of the League of Villain members, quirks, abilities, skills, and things like that. So, after being thrown all of these documents, they would be, reading them out loud. As it turns out, the League of Villains are pretty much powerful. And not only that, their leader, All For One, seems to have the ability to basically steal quirks. After Bakugo hears this, he would say this. That, as, well, Aizawa would say this. Yeah, quite a powerful quirk. And he could even probably, steal all of your quirks in an instant. But don't worry, we have a secret weapon. As he would start to look at Izuku, as Izuku would say this. Oh yeah. As all of them would basically just look at Izuku, and more specifically, one of them specifically just starts to speak up, being, what's his face? Kendo. As Kendo would say this. So, what is it? Is there something really strong about Izuku? As Bakugo would say this. What the hell is that supposed to mean? As he would start to glare at Kendo, as Kendo would say this. What? I'm just wondering. As Izuku would say this. Allow me to tell you something, guys. I'm quirkless. As all of them would be surprised, as one of them would say this, being, what's his face? As Monoma would say this. Wait, you're quirkless? Wait a minute, but how do you have horns? And as he would say this, I'll explain. As he would explain that he was the Oni of, that Buddhist sect, basically the one that basically caused all of those atrocities, as all of them would be horrified knowing that Izuku is actually him, and telling them that he's now in control, and now wants to become a hero to basically save everybody, and wants to become a hero no longer want to become that thing. He even talked to his, other self, otherwise known as, Shinigami, which allows him to basically control his more, savage side. Which gives him, enhanced senses, and not only that, stronger abilities in battle. After hearing of this, they would be, terrified of him, but, well, kind of understand him. Specifically, one of them being, one of them would say this, being Momo. I see. So you're no longer that monster? As he would say this. Yes. I only want to protect everybody. I want to protect everybody that I care about, including Kinako and Ibara. That is why I will gladly take down All For One, even if it means getting myself killed. After hearing of this, one of them would say this, being, Kirishima. Hey, don't say things like that. It kind of scares me, as Izuku would say this. Very well then. As one of them would say this, being, All Might, which finally arrived after basically just like running away from many, how do I say this? After running away from many fans, as he would say this. So, did I miss anything? As Ibarra would say this. Not Ibarra, I meant Principal Nezu, God damn it. So, Principal Nezu would say this. Not that much. So, after explaining the plan, with the help of All Might, All Might would say this. So, I want you to prepare for tomorrow, because tomorrow night we're gonna be taking down All for One with the rest of the heroes. And don't tell anybody about this, including your friends, because this mission is gonna be top priority. Got it? As everybody would just salute to him, almost like a general to his soldiers, as All Might would say this. You don't really need to do that. As Izuku would basically say this. Oh, sorry, I was in the moment. As everybody else would start to laugh, including, Bakugo for some reason, which Bakugo would also salute to, All Might at the time, as he would say this. Yeah, I guess so. So, as everybody would start to leave, Izuku would start to leave with Ibarra and Kiniko. As Izuku would basically just think in his mind, so this is going to be the battle between him and All for One and the rest of the League of Villains. I will stop them at all costs, and I will save this world. And I will protect my loved ones, including both of you, Kiniko and Ibarra. As Kiniko would basically just go closer to him and basically started hugging him, or more specifically his arm, as Ibarra would start to, hold him with her hair. As they would start to walk together, as they would make it back home, as Izuku would basically fall asleep on his bed, and as for the rest of them, they would also fall asleep. So, yeah. So, this is gonna be the end of this episode. So, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!